Alright, king prawn or jumbo king prawn, which are like jumbo shrimp, and Petits Pois, these little garden peas, these tiny garden peas. I buy these frozen in bags, and they're absolutely sweet and delicious. Those of you who've seen my recent prawn curry video will probably see some similarities here. The difference is I'm using onion instead of shallots, and I'm using by weight I'm using a little extra onion. I use quite a lot of onion in this dish. Garlic and ginger around about the same. You know, I like quite a lot of garlic and quite a lot of ginger in a prawn curry. Other ingredients, I've got some garam masala which I stir in towards the very end of the cooking time, and that's just some rather sweet aromatic spices that are ground up, and they go in right at the end. Very Indian thing to do, that is. A curry powder, which is not a very Indian thing to do. I'm using a standard Madras style curry powder. I make my own, but you can use any curry powder you particularly like. And to sweeten the oil at the beginning of cooking, I use a bit of panch poran, which is just little whole spices, whole seed spices which are ground up, which are left whole, and then they go in and sweeten the fat. So there's things in there like fennel, mustard seeds, 2 different kinds of mustard seeds, cumin or jeera, and 1 or 2 other favourite spices in there. Very nice. But you can buy panch poran in bags from any Indian store, any store that sells Indian or Pakistani food. You'll be able to buy that. I've got a couple of little pieces of this is dalchini, cinnamon or cassia, and they'll go in whole into the curry. You don't eat those, they just flavour the curry and then you fish them out rather than eat them. I've got some, these are dried carapili leaves or curry leaves. You can use fresh if you've got them, use a sprig of fresh carapili leaves if you've got them. I'm confined to using dried ones at the moment. I have 500 grams of tomato passata, as we call it. It's sieved tomatoes, sieved non-concentrated tomatoes, so that's basically it. They're Italian tomatoes which have been sieved. For a touch of luxury, I've got a little tablespoon or so of creme fraiche, which is a kind of sour cream. Very nice. It's a light sour cream, very nice. And the star of the show, of course, is these prawns. I've got 2 180 gram packs, so that's 360 grams, and I will show you how to prepare those in a minute. So if anything, this is easier to do while they're still a little bit frozen, and I'll show you what I do. So I grab hold of the prawn and I hold it like that, with the tail coming down towards my fingers and the tips of my index and middle finger covering the front portion of the prawn, and then I go down the centre there and then cut back almost towards the tail, but not cutting all the way through, just leaving it like that, and that's it. And then I just cut, and you'll see it's a little bit easy to do with this one because it's a bit more frozen. But do make sure they're thoroughly thawed before you start cooking with them. It doesn't take long, and this cutting actually speeds up the process. And the reason we do this is if you look at the prawn itself, it's fat at one end and thin at the other, which means that normally that thin end will cook before the fat end does. But if you splay it open like that, it all cooks at roughly the same time, and it curls up in a rather attractive way once it's cooked. Sometimes you get a or dark or blue digestive tract which runs along the back. You don't want to be eating that, but I've not found one in either of these two bags because it's a really good product. But as you cut through it, you sometimes see this little digestive tract that goes along here, but you can just flick it out the way and clean it out and rinse it under the tap and make sure it's all clean. But as I say, these are really excellent product. Where do they come from? It normally tells you. Kim prawns farmed in Vietnam. Okay, so they're from Vietnam, and an excellent product they are too. Really good. Right, on to the next step. Okay, I'm going to take most of my ingredients on this plate. I'm going to save 2 of those, and these are birdeye peppers, and they're really, really strong. They are a bit stronger than you might realise actually if you're used to Caribbean peppers. These are a different kind of heat, so if you're inured to Caribbean peppers, you might not be inured to these. So just a warning, just to let you know, because they're not quite the same. Although most Caribbean peppers are actually hotter than these in terms of Scovilles, you'll find that these can blindside you a little bit, so just take care with them. I like pepper, I love pepper, I'm a pepper mouse, so I'm using 5 of these. You may only want to use 2 or 3 perhaps. It's up to you, depends on your tolerance of peppers. I'm going to use, there's something like 8 or 10 cloves of garlic. I like lots of garlic in mine. Putting in both of these. So that's a fairly large sized brown onion which I've chopped up, and a good thumb-sized piece of ginger which is in slices. And then I'm just going to take that away and give that a whiz, and then I'll come back. So that's given it an initial grind. Now I want to get in some spices. I want some curry powder in there, and I'm going to put in 1, 2 very heaped teaspoons of my curry powder in there. I might put a little bit more because I like it spicy. There we go. And I also want to get some oil in there, which will also help it break up. So I want about a couple of tablespoons of oil in there. That'll help it break up. So there we are. It's broken up pretty good. I'll let you get in closer. And you can see it's broken up pretty good. These little bits around the outside, don't need to worry about them. You can stir them in and give it another whiz if you're worried about it, but I like a little bit of texture in my curry, so I'm going to leave that pretty much as it is. You could certainly liquidise it a little bit more, no problem. Alright, well that's coming up to heat. I've got one other ingredient which I didn't show you, and that's I'm using chicken stock cube. You can use a fish stock or a prawn stock cube if you can find one. Some of the Asian stores do prawn ones which would actually be better for this, but chicken ones are perfectly okay. So I'm just going to chop that up and use that as when I start to make the sauce. So that's coming up nicely to temperature. So I'm going to put in a couple of 3 tablespoons of oil, and into that I'm going to put about a teaspoon of panch poran, about that much, and that should spit as soon as it gets hot. And likewise I'm going in with my cinnamon, my daelchini cinnamon, which is cassia bark, and a good pinch of carapili leaves, about the same as a stick, a single branch of carapili, and I'll get that, bring that up to heat, and as soon as those seeds start to spit, then it's hot enough. And then the next thing in is the paste. Okay, that's starting to pop. And then I keep that's in there, and all I'll do when I need to add water to the recipe a little later on, I'll just swill it around in there to get the rest of that gorgeous flavour out of there. and then start to stir that in. So this is the process now. You can use a deeper pot than this. I'm using this wide mouth fricassee pan to show you the process easier. And if you're not used to onions, make sure you got your extractor on, because the onions and chilli and everything, they tend to get up your nose a little bit. Fortunately, I'm used to it. So this stage is we're getting all the rawness out of the onion and out of the spices, and we're reducing it down till it starts to fry again and stick to the bottom like it's doing there. But there will be a point at which you won't be able to scrape it up. It will just stay stuck to the bottom, and then what will happen is the paste will start to give off a kind of characteristic sweet smell as the sugars are coming out of the onion, the garlic and the ginger. Just keep that moving. You need to keep stirring it, keep it moving. Okay, as you can see, it's really starting to stick to the bottom now, and my nose is telling me I'm getting that sweet caramelization smell. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some water which has swilled into the spice, and that's what, about half a cup of water, something like that. And then I'm going to stir that in, and then I'm going to let that reduce a little. At this stage I'm going to introduce the stock. So you can either add chicken stock, but say a little bit of chicken stock, but you really need the concentrated flavour, so I'm using the stock cube. If you use chicken stock, you'll have to reduce it more, that's all. You just have to keep stirring it to reduce. And then we want to reduce that until it starts frying again. And those of you who've watched my other curry videos will know that that's my method to get what they call the second day taste on day one. So what you're doing is you're frying down the paste until it's shipped a lot of its water and starts to produce the caramel, and then you do that again. So I'm now in the process of doing that for the second time, and that will give me the nice second day taste, which I love. Everybody says a curry tastes better on the second day. Well, that might be true, but I like mine to taste good on day one. And I'm still at that stage, you see, where I can move that around. Let me get my other little spatula, which shows it a little bit better. And at this point I can lift it and scrape it and see it clean. Yeah. Now I'm letting that cook down now until it sticks again. All in all, it takes about 7.5 minutes, but I'll cut to the good bits. Alright, we're back to that point where the fond is sticking to the bottom of the pan and it's not scraping up easily. And it's at this stage I want to introduce my sour cream, or creme fraiche. And we're going to put in about 2 tablespoons of that. These are super heaped teaspoons, it's about the same. And you want to stir that in while it's at this frying stage, and that stops it all from splitting. And gets that creaminess into it. Quite a lot of the northern Indian curries are creamy and milky, and kind of a little bit milder than some of the ones from the south of India. And they'll use things like yogurt and, or curd as they call it, yogurt and cream in their cooking processes. So that's now ready to receive the tomato. So I'm using the whole 500 mils of tomato passata, using all of that. This is tomato rich. So I'll get all that in and give that a stir. So you want to stir that in well. And at this stage it's okay to go ahead and add your peas. Do that. Keep that stirring. You have to attend this, you know, you have to attend it. Right, looking at that, I'm going to want more peas in that, so I'm going to add another cup of peas. So that will be already in the description below the video. You'll see that I've adjusted that in the recipe, but I didn't know that until now, till I saw it. So I'm going to turn that down a bit now. Turn it down to 2/3. It was on full heat before. I've turned it down to 2/3. And I'm going to add another cup of peas. That's about 150 grams. So there's about 300 grams of peas in there now. That's better, and it looks about right to me. So I'll just let that carry on cooking for a while. Okay, all that's cooking away nicely now. It's on a fast simmer, and I'm happy for that to go at a fast simmer and reduce a little bit more, because I want that paste, I want that curry hot when I add the prawns in. The prawns take very little cooking time, and I don't want them to overcook, so I'm going to add them right at the last minute. So I'm going to give it a taste. That's nice. It's not too fiercely hot, and I'm going to put in about a level teaspoon of sugar. And whenever I use chilies, I tend to use a little bit of sugar just to balance it all out. And also this dish is going to need some salt. So just adjust it to your own taste. There's no specified amount. I'm adding a little bit of salt. Try it out. Give it a stir. Stir it in. And let's have another taste. New spoon. Well, that's lovely. There's a nice tanginess in this from the tomatoes. There's plenty of spiciness from the curry powder and from the lovely red birdeye peppers. And I'm going to add a little bit more birdeye to that. I'm just going to add one more pepper, only this time it's just chopped. Stir that in, let it cook, and then we'll let that reduce a little bit more. The taste is right on point. Okay, you see where we are now with that really fast simmer, and the bubbles are all over. That's the time to add the prawns, because we want them to go in really, really hot. So they go in. And give them a good old stir, and it's not long now before this dish is ready, boys and girls, because the thing with shrimp, I mean, anyone who knows shrimp very well, like the people in South Carolina in the Low Country, you'll see how they cook shrimp. They never overcook them. They cook them till they're just done and still juicy. So once you get past that stage, they deteriorate very quickly and they become kind of rubbery. So let's get that right back up to heat as fast as we can. Turn the heat right back up. And it won't be long before they start to curl up and cook all the way through. Just make sure they're tightly curled and ready to serve. These have got another minute or so to go. So at this stage I'm just going to add in about half a teaspoon of my garam masala. Oh, it still smells wonderful. Oh, that does smell so good. And it adds a final flourish of delicious aromatic spice to your prawn curry. So there we are. Just Stir all that in nicely. Allow it to bubble for another minute, and then that, boys and girls, will be ready to serve. One final flourish I like to give it is a little sprinkling of fresh or frozen fresh coriander or cilantro. I just put a nice slack handful of that on there and then stir that in, and that adds a lovely sort of lemony fragrance to everything right at the end. Delicious. So they're served with saffron rice. There'll be a link to my saffron rice recipe appearing in the screen up here somewhere and down in the comments, and down in the description below the video. I did this slightly more dry fried than previous versions, just to show you the difference. And that, boys and girls, is my prawn curry with Petits Pois. Enjoy. Hey friends, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. If you would like to follow my channel, please subscribe, and don't forget to click the bell icon and select all to receive notifications for all my future videos. It would be great to hear from you in the comments, and I'll try to get back to as many of you as possible. You may wish to check out these titles or even help me out with a donation using the links in the description below the video. Thanks for watching.